The memory chambers lined the central corridor like a cathedral of frozen hope. Each transparent cylinder contained a human body suspended between life and death, their cellular structures maintained by technologies that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. Captain Elena Rodriguez walked the length of the chamber, her augmented hand trailing along the cold surface of the nearest cylinder. Inside, a child of perhaps 10 years old floated in perfect stasis. Her features were a blend of genetic optimizations, skin with a faint metallic sheen that could reflect harmful radiation, neural implants visible as delicate silver traceries beneath translucent skin. This was no ordinary preservation. Each body was a living archive, a potential seed of humanity's resurrection. The Prometheus was more than a ship. It was an ark, a tomb, and a laboratory, the last refuge of a species that had been moments away from total extinction. Elena's augmented eyes flickered, switching between visual spectrums. The ship's internal diagnostics played out in her field of vision like a complex symphony of data. Oxygen recycling at 97.3% efficiency, radiation shielding maintaining optimal levels, genetic drift within acceptable parameters. But beneath these clinical readings was a current of desperation that no technology could mask. 50,000 humans. 50,000 souls carried across generations through the cold and unforgiving void of space. They were the remnants of a civilization that had once spread across a vibrant blue planet, now reduced to a few thousand souls preserved in stasis, and a handful of crew members who maintained the ship's complex systems. In the command center, holographic displays told the story of humanity's final days. Recordings of Earth's last moments played on a continuous loop, a reminder and a memorial. Cities consumed by unprecedented solar flares, entire continents turned to ash. The desperate launch of colony ships, each one a last-ditch effort to preserve something of human civilization. Captain Rodriguez, a soft voice interrupted her thoughts. Area Chen, the ship's lead geneticist, stood at the entrance of the memory chamber. Her body was a testament to generations of careful genetic modification, silver-streaked skin that could withstand extreme radiation, eyes that perceived wavelengths far beyond human norm. The latest genetic stability reports are concerning, Arya said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. She projected a holographic display showing complex genetic sequences, strands of DNA that twisted and morphed in real time. We're approaching the limits of our current modifications. The quantum probability drives are showing anomalies. Elena studied the display, her augmented brain processing the complex data streams faster than any unmodified human could. Each genetic sequence was a delicate balance, modifications to survive extreme environments, to resist radiation, to extend human capabilities beyond their original limitations, but every modification came with a cost. Genetic drift, potential instabilities, the constant battle between survival and fundamental human biology. Anomalies. Elena's voice was calm, but beneath it ran a current of tension that had been building for generations. Define anomalies, Dr. Chen. Arya's fingers danced across the holographic interface, zooming into specific genetic markers. Not errors, exactly. More like potential. The quantum probability drives are detecting probability streams that shouldn't exist. Potential futures, potential transformations. Outside the ship's reinforced viewports, nothing but endless darkness and the faint, mocking glimmer of distant stars. Somewhere out there was the promise of survival, the hope of finding a new home. The last survivors of a planet consumed by a cataclysmic solar event that had turned Earth into a radioactive tombstone were about to face their greatest challenge. Show me, Elena said, her augmented eyes reflecting the complex dance of genetic potential. Show me what the universe is trying to tell us. The Genetic Preservation Lab was a cathedral of human potential, a space where the boundaries of biology were not just pushed, they were systematically dismantled and reconstructed. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before a massive holographic display, his own body a living testament to generations of careful modification. 3 generations of genetic researchers were visible in the lab, each more dramatically altered than the last. The first generation looked almost traditional, with minimal cybernetic augmentations. The second showed more radical changes: neural ports, enhanced muscular structures, skin that could regulate temperature across impossible ranges. The current generation was something else entirely. Marcus's daughter, Kai, worked nearby. Her body was a masterpiece of biological engineering. Microscopic quantum processors were integrated directly into her neural pathways. Her skin could photosynthesize, generating energy from minimal light sources. Her lungs contained specialized membranes that could extract oxygen from atmospheres that would kill an unmodified human in seconds. Genetic iteration 10,742. Marcus muttered, pulling up a complex holographic model of human DNA. Each strand was a history of survival, a record of humanity's most desperate innovation. The display showed multiple potential genetic paths, each a potential future for the human species. The wall of suspended animation chambers told the brutal story of their research. Hundreds of failed iterations were preserved here, bodies that had not survived the modifications. Each chamber was a memorial and a scientific record. Some showed grotesque mutations, bodies that had been pushed beyond the limits of human biology. Others were more subtle, seemingly perfect specimens that had failed in ways not immediately visible. A young researcher named Zora approached, her movements fluid and precise, another testament to genetic optimization. The latest batch of embryos is showing unprecedented stability, she reported, her voice a carefully modulated tone that could communicate complex scientific data with perfect clarity. Marcus studied the embryonic data. These were not just potential humans, they were living experiments in survival. Each embryo contained genetic modifications that would have been considered impossible just a few generations ago. Radiation resistance, cellular regeneration capabilities that could repair damage from extreme environments, neural networks that could process information at speeds that would have seemed like science fiction to their ancestors. Survival is not a choice, Marcus often told his students. It's a mathematical problem we solve with our own biology. The ship's central AI, known as AI, Advanced Recursive Intelligence Algorithm, projected additional data streams. Holographic displays showed the statistical probability of survival for each genetic iteration. Millions of potential scenarios played out in real time, each a potential future for humanity. We are creating more than humans, AI's synthetic voice announced. We are creating a species capable of surviving what no other civilization could endure. Kai Chen approached a particular suspension chamber, one that contained a unique specimen, a human body that had been modified to survive in multiple environmental conditions simultaneously. Part of its cellular structure could withstand the vacuum of space. Another part could process methane-based atmospheres. Its neural network was a complex quantum computer, capable of processing information across multiple dimensional streams. Not just adaptation, Kai whispered, her augmented fingers tracing the outline of the suspension chamber. Transcendence. The ethical implications were staggering. Each modification pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be human. Were they still the same species that had once inhabited a fragile blue planet, or were they becoming something entirely new? Marcus watched his daughter, understanding the weight of their work. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. Now they were taking that ability to its ultimate conclusion. Outside the lab's reinforced walls, the Prometheus continued its silent journey through the void. 50,000 souls suspended between what they were and what they might become. Each body a potential seed of a new type of humanity. A species engineered not just to survive, but to triumph. The next iteration, Marcus said quietly to AI, will be our most ambitious yet. The AI's response was immediate. Probability of success, 63.7%. Probability of creating a fundamentally new form of sentient life, 42.3%. Just another day in humanity's greatest experiment. Deep within the Prometheus's core, Project Thunderbolt was more than a weapon. It was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. The research complex sprawled across 3 interconnected decks, a labyrinth of quantum computing arrays, dimensional manipulation chambers, and holographic simulation rooms that defied conventional understanding of physics. Commander Axel Rodriguez, Alina's brother and the project's lead strategist, stood before a massive holographic war room. Thousands of potential galactic scenarios play out simultaneously, each represented by intricate light patterns that shifted and morphed with impossible complexity. His augmented body was a living interface, neural implants allowing direct communication with the ship's most advanced systems. "We're not just preparing for war," Axel muttered to his primary research team. "We're preparing to redefine the very concept of conflict." Dr. Yuki Nakamura, the project's chief quantum theorist, adjusted a series of crystalline processors that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Her hands moved with surgical precision, each gesture causing ripples of data to cascade through holographic displays. "Traditional warfare is linear," she explained to a group of young researchers. "Humans have always understood something that other species miss. Conflict is multidimensional. It's not about overwhelming force, but about understanding and manipulating probability itself." Project Thunderbolt was the culmination of generations of secret research. Its primary goal was to develop a technology that could simultaneously exist in multiple dimensional states, a communication and warfare system that would render current galactic defenses not just obsolete, but conceptually irrelevant. The primary chamber contained what appeared to be a simple metallic sphere, no larger than a human fist. But this was no ordinary device. It was a quantum probability manipulator, a technology so advanced that it could theoretically alter the very fabric of space-time. "Look," Yuki said, projecting a holographic representation of the device's capabilities. Streams of potential realities branched out like a complex neural network. Traditional weapons destroy. This device doesn't just destroy. It rewrites the potential of destruction itself. Nearby, a team of xenolinguists worked on something equally revolutionary. They weren't just decoding alien communication systems. They were developing the universal communication matrix that could understand and manipulate linguistic and psychological patterns across entire civilizations. Commander Rodriguez pulled up a classified report that had been generations in the making. Detailed psychological profiles of every major galactic civilization, not just their technological capabilities, but their deepest cultural fears, their most fundamental psychological vulnerabilities. "Revenge is too simple a word," Axel told his team. "What we're planning is a complete recalibration of galactic power dynamics." The ship's AI, Araya, projected additional data streams. Millions of potential scenarios played out in real time, each a potential path to human survival and resurgence. The complexity was staggering. Entire civilizations reduced to probability matrices, potential conflicts analyzed down to the quantum level. A young researcher named Marcos approached with a breakthrough. "The dimensional communication matrix is stable," he reported, his voice barely containing his excitement. "We can now transmit information across dimensional boundaries that other species can't even perceive." Axel studied the data. This was more than a technological achievement. This was proof of humanity's fundamental adaptability. Every limitation had been a challenge to be overcome, every obstacle an opportunity for innovation. In another section of the research complex, a team worked on biological warfare technologies that were anything but traditional. These were not weapons designed to kill, but to fundamentally alter the biological and psychological makeup of entire civilizations. "We're not conquerors," Yuki said, catching Axel's contemplative look. "We're architects of a new possibility." The sphere at the center of the chamber pulsed with a soft, almost imperceptible light. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a promise, a testament to humanity's ability to turn near extinction into the ultimate form of survival. Outside the reinforced walls of the research complex, the Prometheus continued its silent journey. 50,000 souls carried the hope of an entire species, a hope encoded in quantum processors, in genetic modifications, in a determination that had survived when everything else had been lost. "Prepare the next simulation," Axel commanded. "We're going home." When the human fleet emerged, it was not with a roar, but with a precision that was almost supernatural. Their ships moved like liquid mercury, slipping through defensive grids as if they were nothing more than cosmic fog. The first Zinteri border outpost didn't even register an attack. One moment, its systems were operational. The next, every piece of technology had been subtly rewritten, reprogrammed by quantum infiltration algorithms that left no trace of their origin. Intercepted communications revealed increasing panic. The humans were not just attacking. They were dismantling entire technological ecosystems with surgical precision. The Zinteri Psychological Defense Complex was considered the most advanced mental fortification in the known galaxy. Generations of technological and cognitive development had created what they believed was an impenetrable psychological barrier, a defense system that could theoretically withstand any form of mental manipulation. They were wrong. Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the center of the human psychological warfare team, her mind a living weapon more sophisticated than any traditional technological defense. Her augmented brain was a quantum communication hub, capable of processing and transmitting complex emotional and cognitive patterns that would shatter the Zinteri's understanding of psychological warfare. "Begin primary transmission," she whispered. The first wave was not an attack. It was a story. Holographic broadcasts began appearing across Zinteri communication networks. Not propaganda, not traditional psychological manipulation, but the raw, unfiltered history of human survival. Scenes of Earth's destruction played out with a visceral intensity that defied traditional narrative structures. Imagine watching your entire civilization's history compressed into a quantum-encrypted emotional experience, not just seeing images, but feeling them, experiencing them with a depth that transcended traditional sensory input. The Zinteri saw cities consumed by solar fires. They felt the desperation of the last human generations as they prepared their colony ships. But more than that, they experienced the emotional resilience, the unbreakable spirit that had carried humanity through near extinction. In the Zinteri Central Communication Hub, senior psychologists began to break down. These were not just images. These were experiential memories transmitted through quantum entanglement, bypassing traditional sensory barriers. A Zinteri senior commander named Krelax watched in horror as the transmissions revealed humanity's journey. Each memory was a quantum-encrypted emotional package that invaded the mind with surgical precision. He could feel the cold of space, the desperation of survival, the unbreakable hope that had carried humans through generations of potential extinction. "This is not communication," one Zinteri psychologist muttered. "This is assault." But it was more than assault. It was a fundamental reimagining of psychological conflict. The human team had spent generations developing what they called the empathetic resonance protocol. It wasn't about breaking the Zinteri's mental defenses. It was about making them understand, truly understand, the human experience. Each transmission was a carefully constructed quantum narrative. Memories of children born in zero-gravity environments. Generations of humans modifying their own biology to survive. The constant, relentless push against the boundaries of what was possible. Dr. Reyes monitored the psychological impact in real time. Quantum sensors tracked the emotional and cognitive responses of entire Zinteri communication networks. This was warfare conducted at the level of consciousness itself. "We are not destroying," she told her team. "We are revealing." The Zinteri's most advanced psychological defense systems began to fail, not through traditional hacking or technological intervention, but through a complete emotional recalibration. Their understanding of conflict, of survival, of existence itself was being fundamentally challenged. Krelax found himself weeping, not from sadness, but from a profound understanding that challenged everything he had ever known about his own civilization. He was experiencing humanity's entire survival journey, not as an external observer, but as a living, breathing participant. Psychological penetration at 87.6%. Araya reported. Cognitive restructuring progressing exponentially. This was more than an invasion. This was a complete transformation of consciousness. The human team worked with a precision that bordered on the supernatural. Each transmission was a quantum-encrypted emotional package designed to not just communicate, but to fundamentally reshape understanding. Scenes of human adaptation played out. Generations of humans modifying their own biology. Children born with memories encoded directly into their genetic structure. A species that had turned near extinction into the ultimate form of survival. In the Zinteri Central Communication Hub, traditional hierarchies began to crumble. How do you maintain a military structure when you've experienced the raw, unfiltered experience of a species that refused to die? Transmission complete, Dr. Rice announced. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Technology Exposition had always been the premier showcase of scientific innovation. For millennia, the Zinteri Confederation had dominated these events, their technological displays reducing other civilizations to mere spectators. This year would be different. Dr. Kai Chen stepped onto the exposition floor, her mere presence a walking demonstration of human technological prowess. Her body was a living, breathing artifact of human innovation. Neural networks visible beneath translucent skin, quantum processors integrated into her very cellular structure. Demonstration Module Alpha, she announced to the assembled representatives from hundreds of galactic civilizations. The first device looked deceptively simple. A metallic sphere no larger than a human fist, suspended in a quantum stabilization field. Dr. Zora Martinez, Kai's primary research partner, began the presentation. Matter-energy conversion engine, Zora explained, her voice carrying a calm precision that masked the revolutionary nature of their technology. Traditional energy generation relies on external fuel sources. We've developed a system that can generate energy from the fundamental quantum fluctuations of space-time itself. The sphere began to pulse. Around it, matter seemed to ripple and flow, defying the traditional laws of physics. Energy generated from nothing, or more precisely, from the very fabric of reality itself. Entire planetary ecosystems could be terraformed in months, not centuries. Barren worlds could be transformed with a level of efficiency that made previous terraforming technologies look like primitive stone tools. The Varkal delegation watched in stunned silence. Their chief scientist, a being with 12 sensory organs and a reputation for technological brilliance, struggled to comprehend what he was witnessing. Kai moved to the next demonstration. A device that looked like an intricate piece of jewelry. A neural interface that could communicate across dimensional barriers. Universal translation is obsolete, she explained. This device doesn't just translate language, it translates fundamental experience. The device began to glow. Representatives from different civilizations found themselves experiencing each other's memories, emotions, and cultural contexts instantaneously. Linguistic barriers dissolved. Cultural misunderstandings became impossible. It was communication reduced to its most fundamental level, pure, unfiltered understanding. We are not just sharing information, Kai continued. We are sharing consciousness. The third demonstration was perhaps the most terrifying. A biological regeneration system that could repair entire planetary ecosystems. Damaged environments could be restored to their optimal state in mere months. Genetic structures could be repaired, modified, optimized with a precision that made previous medical technologies look like crude guesswork. Araya, the ship's AI, provided real-time context. Holographic displays showed the potential applications. Entire planetary environments could be restructured, genetic diseases could be eliminated, biological systems could be optimized at a fundamental level. The Zinteri representatives began to understand the true nature of humanity's technological leap. This was not just advanced technology. This was a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. Dr. Marcus Chen, watching from the Prometheus, smiled. Each demonstration was more than a technological showcase. It was a statement. Humanity had not just survived. They had transcended. The final demonstration left the entire exposition in shocked silence. A quantum probability manipulator that could actually alter the potential outcomes of events. Not prediction, not projection. Actual manipulation of probability streams. "We are not changing what will happen," Zora explained. "We are changing what can happen." The device looked like nothing more than a simple crystalline structure. But as it activated, the very fabric of reality seemed to ripple. Potential futures became visible, not as predictions, but as malleable streams of potential. Representatives from hundreds of civilizations watched in a mixture of terror and awe. These were not just technological demonstrations. These were fundamental challenges to their understanding of reality itself. The Varkal chief scientist approached Kai, his multiple sensory organs struggling to process what he had witnessed. "How?" he demanded. "How is this possible?" Kai's response was simple. "Survival is not about having the most advanced technology. It's about reimagining what technology can be." As the exposition concluded, one thing became abundantly clear. The galaxy had just changed forever, and humanity was just getting started. Humanity brought more than technological conquest. They brought a radical new philosophy of existence. Their approach combined ruthless pragmatism with an unexpected depth of compassion. Alien species began studying human history, not as a military exercise, but as a profound lesson in adaptation and resilience. Universities across multiple star systems started offering courses on human survival strategies, a discipline that was part biology, part philosophy, part pure inspiration. The humans were not just conquering. They were transforming the very understanding of what sentient life could be. The Galactic Reconstruction Summit was unlike any diplomatic gathering in recorded history. Representatives from over 300 different civilizations filled the massive quantum adaptive conference chamber on the neutral planet of Convergence. At the center sat the human delegation, not as conquering heroes, but as architects of a new possibility. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the primary podium, her augmented body a living testament to humanity's journey. Behind her, a holographic display showed the transformation of the Prometheus. No longer just a survival vessel, but now the primary diplomatic hub for galactic reconstruction. "We are not here to rule," Elena began, her voice simultaneously translated across multiple dimensional communication spectrums. "We are here to reimagine." The chamber itself was a marvel of human technological innovation. The walls were living quantum interfaces capable of displaying multiple realities simultaneously. Representatives could experience potential diplomatic outcomes in real time, making traditional negotiations obsolete. Dr. Marcus Chen stood nearby, representing the scientific reconstruction team. Beside him, Kai Chen managed the technological integration protocols. The human delegation was a perfect blend of military precision, scientific innovation, and philosophical depth. The Zinteri Confederation, once humanity's primary adversary, now sat as a primary partner in reconstruction. Krelax, the philosopher who had once questioned humanity's approach, now led their diplomatic team. His multiple sensory organs moved with a newfound sense of purpose. The old galactic order was based on competition, Elena explained. The new order will be based on collective potential. Holographic displays showed the transformations already underway. Entire planetary ecosystems being restored, technological barriers being dismantled, communication networks that could bridge not just linguistic differences, but fundamental cognitive approaches. The Varkal representative, once a skeptical observer, now stood as a primary advocate for the human approach. Their chief scientist demonstrated technologies developed through collaborative human Varkal research, innovations that would have been impossible under the old galactic paradigms. Araya, the advanced AI that had been crucial to humanity's survival, managed the complex diplomatic protocols. It was more than a computer system. It was a living diplomatic interface that could process millions of potential scenarios simultaneously. Reconstruction is not about returning to what was, Araya announced. It's about creating what can be. The summit wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. It was a fundamental reimagining of galactic civilization. Technologies were being shared. Biological adaptation techniques were being integrated across species. Entire philosophical frameworks were being rebuilt. A young researcher from a previously isolated civilization stood up. "How did you survive?" she asked. The question was more than historical curiosity. It was a fundamental inquiry into the nature of existence. Belena's response was projected across the quantum communication network. Holographic displays showed humanity's journey, from near extinction to galactic transformation. Not as a linear narrative, but as a living, breathing potential of survival. "We survived," she explained, "by refusing to accept limitation as a final state." The reconstruction protocols were revolutionary. No longer would civilizations be defined by their current capabilities. Instead, they would be evaluated by their potential for adaptation, for growth, for transformation. Entire legal systems were being rewritten. Technological barriers were being dismantled. Communication networks were being redesigned to promote understanding rather than competition. Krelax approached Elena after the primary session. "We misunderstood you," he said, his multiple sensory organs processing the complexity of the moment. "We saw you as a threat. You were an opportunity." The Prometheus, once a desperate survival vessel, now served as the primary diplomatic hub. Its corridors were filled with representatives from civilizations that would have been enemies mere cycles ago. Now, they worked together, shared technologies, reimagined possibilities. As the summit concluded, something fundamental had changed. This was not a moment of human victory. This was a moment of collective potential. Helena looked out over the assembled representatives. Hundreds of species, once divided, now united by a simple, powerful understanding. Survival was not about preservation. It was about transformation. The galaxy held its breath, and humanity had only just begun.